guys, thanks for joining me today. So today we're going to be talking about editing. This is one that I've gotten a few questions about from photographers to kind of go over, and I've never really quite done that. So we're going to try and do some of that today. So over the years, I've kind of developed a slim approach to editing. I like to keep it simple. When I first started shooting, I was a little bit heavy-handed with my editing. That actually was more of the fun part for me because I would literally take one picture and like convert it into something totally different. Um, after the editing was done, and I found that like to be more of the artistic process. It's like I take the picture to have a canvas to paint after the fact. But now, because of the volume that I shoot, I like to really simplify my editing and still, get my creative, artistic looking images in the end. So a lot of the editing goes up is done in the camera, you know, making sure my light is how I want it to be, making sure my composition is as tight as I want it to be, and just making sure I don't really, you know, have much to do after the fact. So, a little overview on this image. This image was taken at the National Gallery of Arts in DC. It's taken in front of a sculpture in front of the building. And what I guess makes this image interesting is the choice of perspective, how I choose to frame the sculpture to where you probably won't recognize it if you saw it. And the cool thing about light is when it reflects off surfaces, it actually it can also create different colors. So the natural color of that sculpture is like black or blue, like navy blue or black. And when light hits it, it just does other stuff. So um, yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit about the scene that I shot it in. Um, so about editing, uh, I use one preset, one colored preset and one black and white preset that I use through all my work. I use it in my street work. I use it in my, weddings and family stuff. I use it in my commercial work, and I just do that to keep things simple, slim out the whole editing process. I only edit in Lightroom. I also call in Lightroom, and basically Lightroom is a one-stop shop for me. I copy all my cards into a hard drive. Then I import all the files from the hard drive into Lightroom. I select smart previews and standard size previews during import. And I actually apply my colored presets automatically. So when the images come in, they're already like, the preset has already been applied, and it usually looks extremely horrible. Because my preset comes in darker, I have a lot of blacks in my preset and a lot of contrast. So, and also as a Nikon photographer, I generally underexpose images because Nikons are good with detail in the shadows versus the highlights, and especially a camera like the D780, the highlights are pretty bad compared to the D810 that I've traditionally shot with majority of my career. Um, so that was something I actually had to get used to, the poor highlights recovery. So, anyways, that's basically how I bring images into Lightroom. Now, for this image, I will show you the original as was shot in camera, and that's pretty much the image. Um, it doesn't look like much out of camera because I was pretty much doing highlight control, trying to keep my highlights down so I could have enough detail should I need it later. Because when I was shooting the image, I was really just playing with the diagonals and the shapes that are being created, but didn't really have an idea of, sometimes I'm like, I'll figure out what this image is going to be later on. But for now, this is how I'm going to start it off. And I take it to the lab and make it to the image I think it's going to be, or it's supposed to be. So I'll just go about, I'll start the editing by applying my preset. So that's pretty much what it looks like once my preset is applied. As you can see here, this is really just what the preset looks like. So it comes in with plus 50 whites, negative 70 blacks. So it just comes in with contrast, right? I have no vibrance. I bump up saturation by 30. I think my tone curve is like regular. There's nothing crazy going on there. And I just mess with the saturation of these individual colors. Negative 15 for oranges, plus 40 for greens, plus 40 for aqua. And I also bring in sharpening, that radius, this amount of detail. Noise reduction, definitely I put in noise reduction. So it's a little bit smooth and I don't have so much information, just to help smoothing out, especially since I'm a photographer who shoots with high ISO, so automatically I just apply noise reduction to my images even if they don't need them, because most times they might end up needing them. And these are just, I didn't do anything there, nothing really here. I don't even know, nothing really there. Okay, so that's the presets. That's what I start off with. Then in this case, I would, to edit this image, I would bump up my exposure. And I actually do not look at the numbers. I just bump it up based on what I'm seeing visually. Pull my highlights back to get this detail in the dress back. Bump up my shadows a bit. Pull back shadows rather. Also get my temperature up a bit, so it's kind of looking warm. I like warmer looking images. Then I'm gonna adjust my crop. Let's see here, a bit just to make it a little bit more cleaner. Then I will, normally I would like use the spot removal tool, and I'll take out things like this, these imperfections. So this is these are fingerprints, it seems like. So I pull out stuff like that to make it clean. This kind of stuff here to make it clean. So you kind of hide. I like playing with abstract stuff. I guess that's the artist in me. I like playing with making things look abstract, so you don't really know the true nature of the shape or the objects in the scene. All right, then I'll bring the gradient filter, and now I'm going abstract. Like I don't want people to know what this thing is. Like, what is it, And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create a straight line. A really hard straight line. And I'm going to blow out this part, the top triangle, top left triangle. What I'm doing is trying to really get a nice straight line going. And that's one thing I like about my style of photography, is there's a little bit of freedom that comes with it, because I like to be artistic in my nature. I'm able to do some things that I don't know others might frown on. So that's blown out and it's nice and straight. Here I get to do that with the brush, and I'm pulling up exposure so I can completely blow it out. I'm adding whites, adding highlights, so it's like completely blown out. I'm gonna just brush it out because it doesn't add anything to my image. Just brushing that out. Brushing that out. And I use a trackpad, or I actually edit on my laptop, so I don't know. My hands seem to be pretty steady, but I'm just brushing out stuff. It's nice and straight. Nice and straight. I actually don't remember doing all this when I actually originally edited the image, but I must have done it somehow. I'm also not feathering my brush, just so I get a really sharp straight line in the corners. Yeah, some might say, some might say, you know, you say you don't use Photoshop, but you're really manipulating this image. I mean, touche. My manipulation is minimal. All I'm doing is blowing out highlights. I think that's okay. That's acceptable. Just finishing this up. Finishing it up. I think it's good enough for demonstration purposes. Let's see. Yep. So it looks good. Next I will come on. Next I will go in there and remove these spots. Spot removal tool. Make it look all fresh and so clean. Remove all the spots. Make sure that's good. Now I can even go in additionally and remove some more shadows from my face. Add some highlights so it's popping. She doesn't look, you know, just brighten things up a bit. See if that's too much. Let's see here. Yeah. And we could actually do some. I don't think I did this in the original image, but now I do soften skin with there's a light option on this version of Lightroom, so I use that these days to smooth out the skin. Let's see. So I don't think I did this originally, but why not? We'll do it today. Giving you the latest version of my editing mentality. All right, smooth, nice and smooth. And I'll do some here. face nice and smooth, not too crazy, just nice and smooth. Now her face is a different color. So what I could do is let's see, let's try this. Cool it off a bit, bring things down. Just more natural looking. Here I'll go micro changes to see, bring in some magenta. There's also some other reflections from the wall on her face, but that's fine. I'll probably pull back some shadows here too, kind of make things even. Head and body, similar shade, similar tone, nice and bright, smooth. I don't do stuff like this all the time, but you know, when it's a portrait and you know you want to do a little bit more. I don't really like, if it's a wedding and stuff, I'm not gonna go there, and it's not like, if the light is perfect, like if I'm not backlighting them and all that kind of stuff, I probably won't do all of this, you know. But for the sake of it, I'll do it here. Bring in a little more temperature. I'll probably bump down the exposure a bit too, just so it's a more natural skin tone. All right, so let's see how much it looks like the original. I think it's a little bit brighter, but let's see. See, yeah, it's actually cropped more. Let's see here. Let me try. Maybe I didn't crop it as much as I thought I did the first time. I just probably cropped that out. Did I even crop it at all? Oh, my miniature. Oops. All right, so let's see. We probably don't need to crop it at all. All right, so do that, boom, do that, boom, and it's pretty similar. So it's slightly different. I think it's a lot less detail in this version. My updated version, more even skin tones. That's what I originally did. Darker, you know, the face and the head, the body, the face and the chest don't really match as well. They match a lot better now. It's good to know that I'm actually doing things slightly better. Let's see. I probably want to erase some of the skin softening in the eyebrows, just so it's sharp. Just, erase. Erase. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. We can go a bit darker. Pull the hair details out. Darker hair details. So yeah, that's pretty much how this was edited. Not bad. Pretty close. I think I see what I did. I pulled this up so it kind of intersected right there. Boom. Okay. So there you go. A lot smoother. So that's how I pretty much edit. And this again is just this particular image. I wouldn't spend this amount of time on another one if it's not one that requires the same level of attention. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was useful. Um, I think I will do this for more images, some more complex ones or more dramatic. Um, and yeah, so in the comments, let me know if there are any other specifics you want. I'm going to be doing one about posing soon because one of the Patreons had mentioned posing. So I'll be talking about that. Also, there was an image that I mentioned. I had put up a question about how it was done. So I'm going to address that at the end of this video. All right, so here's the bonus video, right? I put up a post in Patreon talking about this image and asking how you would do this picture. Like how do you think it was done? So I'm going to explain exactly how I made this image. Now, I didn't get a lot of responses. I'm sure everybody's busy. So hopefully you will, by the time you see this video, you'd have probably seen that and you could have like at least gone through the thought process that I was trying to have everybody go through. So the reason I asked was because one way I learned how to make images was trying to figure out how somebody else did. And what happens during that process is you learn how to creatively think, right? And if somebody makes an image one way and you can think about, kind of dream up how to make that same image, then you know how to make that image. It doesn't matter if you're doing it exactly how the other guy did, but you're able to do it. Or even if you don't figure that out, you can still figure something else out during that process. So if you think about it and you troubleshoot in your mind, you can stumble on another idea. It allows, and that's the whole process, the whole point of creative thinking is being able to envision and deduce and reverse engineer. Like a lot of drugs that were meant for one thing ended up being a solution for something else. And that's that same process. It's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to make this image, but then you end up making something else, and that image is now your image. Like that's your idea. I put this out there because I thought it's a really interesting image. The light source behind there is like galactical. It's like the cosmos or something. It's really interesting lights that you don't get to see. And what's funny about this is it's not as the answer is not as interesting as one would think. It's not as technical as one would think. It's actually probably one of the easiest images I've ever made. So I apologize for allowing you guys to go through that process of thinking, but I was at the National Portrait Gallery in DC, and they had a light exhibition, and there was a big display, and that display had that light right there, and the light was it was moving around. It was like, I don't want to say it was like a I don't know how to explain it, but it was basically a light display, and that the light you see there actually changed. So it was moving around, and it's like kind of like what you see on a screensaver or something. It just kept moving, and the light was moving, and at one time it's blue, it's red, it's green, and something else, it's yellow, and so it just kept changing and moving around. I had absolutely nothing to do with the light behind them. I just had them stand in front of it, and the only thing I added to kind of make it seem like they were in that space is the reflection you see on the bottom. One of the people saw that and said there was a reflection, and yes, there is a reflection because you can see the little bulb, this here reflected down here, and this like gives off that's the top of his head, so you might also see that. But what it does is it puts the light behind them kind of in front of them, so they kind of feel like they're in that space versus it being right behind them. And that's all I did. I have several versions of it with different, a different formation of light behind them. But that really was it. Like, I just told him stand in front of it, and I just took shots. So hopefully, you know, those ideas you had could spark something else. But that was the whole point. Is, you know, this looks like something that, you know, might have required some level of technicality to it, but at the end of the day, just required people standing in front of the light source that did its own thing, and me reflecting the top of the frame below them. So yeah, hopefully that exercise at least helped you guys with your creative thinking, because, and whatever you thought about, go try it and see what you create. All right, guys, it's been fun. Till next one.